Alright, looks like we're getting into round 2 of the finals here quite shortly. For those of you who are just joining, welcome to the finals match of Dominate Dominion number 82. I'm one of your casters, Sakuri.
I'm RheingoldRiver, joining for Kassadin finals. And the first game, if you didn't see it, you should definitely check it out because Talith PA is a really good Vigor player, guys. So you should definitely check that out for some fantastic Vigor play. Not to discredit the rest of the team, it was great play by absolutely everyone on Clueless, and they were able to take down Amputease. Is up now 1-0 in the finals. So can Amputease bring it to a draw at 1-1, bring it to a game 3, or is Clueless going to close it out and win DominateDominion number 82?
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely no understating the fact that that was an amazing Vygar to see, especially as an underplayed champion here. Going into our chat bans, we have bans coming out for Amputease for Nidalee and Kha'Zix, whereas Clueless decide to pick off Janna and Teemo right away. What do you have to say about those, Ryan?
Nidalee and Kha'Zix are pretty much permabanned. I would say even more so than Kassadin actually right now. We got to see like one Kha'Zix last week, but other than that, pretty much you never see either of those two champions. They're so mobile. Nidalee getting vision from traps. Spears are pretty crazy. Kha'Zix has insane 100 to 0 potential, especially if you're isolated. Janna, a lot of good utility and peel. And I hate Teemo.
I can't think of many people who actually like him. Nidalee, but yeah, like you said, Nidalee almost never gets through just because every once in a rare while you'll see somebody let her through near the end of the Dominate Dominion tournaments. Well, usually happen is she gets through, she turns into a monster, and people will ban her again for 2 weeks. I mean, it's kind of the candy corn effect. Oh, what's this? This is nasty. Next year.
Hold on,
What is
hold on,
this?
hold your horses.
Oh dear.
I love candy corn. I get really excited for Halloween each year because it's the only time of the year that I can buy candy corn, and I don't understand because candy corn is delicious.
You do realize you're probably literally one of 2 people I've known in my entire life who likes this stuff.
This guy, Smoke Muss likes candy corn. So does Rebel Dragon Lol. See?
Ah, the crowd is against me.
I love candy corn.
Alright, I'll concede the point on that. Looking at some of the band champions, immediately we have Jayce, Kassadin, and Annie coming up for Amputease, followed by Rammus, Wukong, and Zyra for Clueless. Jayce, not too terribly surprised to see the ban there, just because he is extremely mobile. The hypergate for movement speed, the engagement and disengagement with his hammer, the fact that he gets to build crit and blow people up in the bottom lane, along with just having monstrous wave clear. He hasn't actually seen any Dominate Dominion play for a long time. In fact, I do believe Nidalee gets through more often than Jayce does. Kassadin, as you said, usually an automatic ban. Nobody wants to play against a skilled Kassadin player. He does have those early game nerfs, but silent, slow, wall hop, no way. And then Annie, super bulky mage, can get rolling stuns out. It's got Tibbers. It's got the Flame Shield, and combination with something like Moonflare Spellblade, her defensive stats can go up through the roof. So she's throwing out damage, she's taking damage, she's reflecting damage, and of course, Bear. And what do you have to say about Clueless's bans?
So Rammus I think Rammus and Wukong were also banned in the first. Actually, I think all 3 of those champions were banned in the first game. But Rammus, super mobile, really good at backcapping. His 3-second taunt is insane and it's targeted, and come on, who wants to deal with that? Wukong, a fantastic AoE damage. His ult actually doesn't do too much damage at rank 1, but it increases like 180 damage at each rank or something insane. So as he gets more levels, and that Cyclone does a ton of damage, his AD scaling is really good. A lot of crowd control there. And Zyra has definitely one of the top 10 zone control champions in the game. I'd probably go so far as even to say the top 5, along with Jarvan's up there. Maokai's pretty high up there also, actually, so not wanting to allow that zone control to happen.
Yeah, that Rammus ban I believe is targeted. Again, something I have to mention, I don't really follow the player to champion picks well enough to know who is famous for what, but I'm pretty sure one of these team members is actually known for playing a really strong Rammus, so they're just taking the strengths of an already strong champion and multiplying enough that it actually warrants that target ban.
I will say that one weakness of Rammus is that his ultimate has actually the single worst name in the game out of any ultimate. It's called Tremors, which is just like the least inspiring ult name ever.
I don't know, when I think Tremors, the only thing I can think of is that movie, and then the next thing I have to think is, wait, that's not a worm.
I don't get the reference, and I think I don't want to.
You haven't seen Tremors?
I have not.
Oh, Ryan. What are we going to do with you?
Well, we do have the complete roster for Amputease, so we could talk about that. It is Brand and Jarvan. So 2/3 of the brick oven there. Of course, Annie was banned out. Warwick, Orianna, and Ezreal.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty interesting combination right there. You see the traditional brick oven coming out. Warwick actually gained a little bit more power since the anti-heal aura has been taken away. Has great chasing potential and the ability to just leap onto a single target and lock it down. Orianna we see quite often because she has both damage and utility thanks to the repositioning, the armor and magic resistance boost, the shield, and then command attack and distance is not only not bad at wave clear, but it can also be used for team utility. However, since that's new V3, you might be seeing a bottom lane Orianna instead a topside Ezreal.
He was the one who played Orianna and built an Executioners, and it was like super godlike, right?
Yeah, because if you're trying to burn down somebody who's got a lot of sustain as an AP, sure you can build Morellos, but unfortunately the problem with that is since you have to get their health below 40%, and if somebody has just insane amounts of lifesteal, it's not going to help you in that initial burst. So with somebody like Orianna where you're auto-attacking anyway, that's usually a better method to get the debuff onto them.
Yeah, and it was against the Yorick, I think, so... will be... Is it Maokai bot?
On Clueless?
No, Urgot bot?
Yeah. Taking a look at that, could be seeing a Kayle in the bottom lane just for the wave clear, although I think they'll run her topside again for the ult.
I don't think Bebe ever plays bot.
It's actually kind of hard to tell with this composition. I don't think they're going to send down Maokai because that would give away their primary tank, and they've been doing pretty successful with him up topside. Urgot, it's kind of a coin flip on that one. They could be sending him down bottom lane, but I've seen a lot of teams really prefer just to bring up topside for that armor shred. Could be seeing a Riven, especially with that flash, just trying to take advantage of the bruiser lifesteal burst that's been happening right now. Although I would probably put my money on Wolfer's Akali just because he's notorious for dueling with her.
Alright, so we will see that when we get into the game, but what about the team fighting on the top point? We have the first thing is the Warwick pick. You don't see it too often, but that suppress can be pretty deadly. And there's a decent number of ways of knocking up the channel. You have the Q out of Maokai. Riven, of course, has her Q, and then Urgot can counter-suppress the suppress if he really wants to.
Yeah, that is a possibility. This is actually kind of a rough one to look at, just because I'm trying to look at things from the perspective of the tanks. Maokai likes to get in the middle of a group engagement, throw down the AoE ultimate, some saplings, some slows, but Jarvan is also really good at getting back into the enemy team. Even if somebody throws down like a brief little bit of interruption to stop the initial combination, as long as that Q is still up after the standard is thrown down, he can just throw himself at the backline and disperse with the Cataclysm. I'd say Amputease actually has a more aggressive team composition because they're going to be looking to catch people out, take advantage of that brick oven, and between Brand and Orianna's range and Warwick's ability to gap close with that ultimate, they can pretty much leap into the middle of anything caught in the Cataclysm and shut it down. Whereas Clueless, they do have an aggressive option with the Maokai, but because of Urgot's range and Kayle's divine intervention, I think this might be a more reactive team than one more looking to pick all the fights.
Yeah, Kayle with that intervention is able to probably, ideally, is going to be using it on either Riven or Akali, allow them to dive into the middle of the team fight and stay there for ages. Both Riven and Akali play decently similar in fights in that they jump in and they seem really squishy, and then they survive for way longer than they should.
Yeah, this is very true. I think probably the biggest X factor here, just looking at the subs, is I'm going to have to see how well Riven does in the early game and where she's going. Because the biggest weakness I've seen with Riven is she's very susceptible to early shutdown. I mean, yes, in Dominion you do have the ambient gold, it's not as easy to snowball, but if you can keep Riven pinned down in those early game fights, keep her from getting any sort of outer lane farm, keep her from getting any sort of team fight kills, she's going to lose a lot of that potential to build quickly into damage and survivability. And if that happens, you're going to see that middle game kicking in for Amputease, and they're just going to be slaughtering Riven before she can do anything about it.
Yeah, and Riven, if she can't get ahead of the curve with her brutalizer especially, tends to be sort of like, well, I am literally only good at doing damage. You can't build Riven tanky. You have to just build AD and armor pen on her. And you need to be able to get those shields. You need to get enough CDR. So she needs to get that brutalizer pretty quick, and she needs to just be able to make a big deal out of it.
Yeah, it's kind of the double-edged sword of Riven is you need all that damage, but unfortunately if you don't have any sort of bulk in Dominion because of the rolling team fights and the close proximity of the jungle encounters, you're just really playing with fire on that one. As we kind of pointed out as well, actually that's a double flash now that I think about it. It's interesting to see Riven with flash. I'm not sure if she's using that more for instant engagements or instant disengagements just in case things go sour, but flash on Kayle is actually a little bit of an interesting pick for here.
Yeah, I think usually when Bebe plays AD carries, and he plays like Vayne, Ezreal, Kayle, generally, I think, in the top lane. He did play Zed bot last game. My bad on not realizing that. But not the champion that I'm used to seeing him play in Dominion. And he does go top and does take that flash for a lot of mobility. Riven also really likes to have flash so that she can get directly on top of someone. She wants to flash. Ideally, if she just flashed and then W'd right on top of Brand, that would be a fantastic engage for their team.
Yeah, I'm just kind of interesting to see what Baby Pop's got planned with that, because with Kayle, I would expect any other summoner spell might be more efficient, because for gap closing, you've got the speed boost on the heal, and you typically, I want to say, don't want to get out of fights because you've got Divine Intervention for that, and can throw out quite a bit of damage before you die.
Yeah, so we will see how that goes. It looks like Dual Power is sitting near bot lane, as is Wolfer, so we might get to see Jarvan Akali. How is that going to go if we do see it?
That's actually kind of an interesting matchup. I would actually put my money a little bit more on Akali just because it's Wolfer, but Jarvan does have the potential to burn her down, and if you can get that Cataclysm out just before the Stealth Shield comes out or while it's on cooldown, that does have potential just to shred through her, because Jarvan, that Nate tankiness mixing with the fact that he can just build pen and be a nightmare in terms of damage, makes him probably one of the reasons why you see him more often picked as a tank around here. But they're kind of dancing around in their base, so I'm not sure if they're just kind of messing around or not.
Yeah, so no clairvoyance actually on either team this time, probably in part because they did opt to go for so many flashes. You don't want to lose out on too many combat summoners, so it was one more flash on each side and one less clairvoyance.
Yeah, it looks like it is going to be Orianna in the bottom lane versus Akali. That's going to be rather nightmares for Orianna once that Akali hits 6, but until then she should be able to bully the lane a little bit more heavily.
Alright, so the battle has begun. Everyone on their way to the windmill. Guys, this is game 2 of the finals of DominateDominion number 82. Amputease versus Clueless. Clueless is currently up 1-0 in the series after a very convincing victory in the first game. And the question is now, can they take it 2-0, or is Amputease going to be able to bring it to a 1-1 and bring it to game 3? The windmill fight is slowly going in favor of Clueless. There's the engage from Talith, but not actually coming too hard to that, just jumping back and forth with those Qs, zoning out as much as they can, getting the poke down from Urgot+, Acid Hunters there, and forcing everyone on Amputease to spot up a little bit. And it looks like they might actually just take the windmill. Okay, there's the engage both ways. The Parkers actually takes a ton of damage, walks out. The exhaust goes out on dual power. It's actually first blood over the way of Amputeases as they take down Maokai. Brand does fall also to Kayle, half-right now dueling Strogan, while on the top actually near the Hell Shrine. Dual power EQs, that's the flash from Talith PA, that's why he took that summoner. Ezreal does go down to Urgot, and that's probably going to be powerful to kill. They take out each other. Science with so much survivability on that Warlock. He does have his blood set from Baby Pop being a little bit low. There's the stun onto half-right. He actually takes a lot of damage from that blaze, from the Pillar of Flame. Definitely dead to the blaze there. Metal Fenrir, though, is probably going to go down to Parker's. Just needs a little bit more damage there. Does manage to get her off before the conflagration does too much, and is Strogan with the Arcane Shift over the wall to avoid the stun from Talith PA. The windmill's still not capped all the way. There's Science coming back, and he does have his blood sent from, I think it's the Hunter's Call. And Parker's actually really low. Bebe also super low. Urgot coming in after the revive. Talith super low himself. He does not have time to get off that shield again. Science goes down. Parker's trying to get onto dual power, but dual power actually was willing to turn that. There's the twisted advance from Parker's. And Urgot on the other side does lend his corrosive charge there. Can he get enough acid under? He needs one more true shot barrage across for the interrupt. Can't take out a Parker's, but that's going to be the windmill going over to Clueless.
Yeah, any doubts I had about the Riven pick are gone now just watching that fight. We saw some beautiful plays coming out from the skill set combination, like using the first Q to deal some damage, using the second Q to juke out the skill shots, and then coming back in with that third Q to get even more damage. And kind of like I was predicting down here in the bottom lane, Newbie3 just completely bullying the wave push on this. It looks like she's even managed to deal a significant amount of damage to Akali as well.
Yeah, and the windmill, it started going in favor of Clueless there, and just from the beginning, they were getting a lot more capture onto it. When the fight finally did break out, it was actually divers in each direction, and it could have been either anyone's game. There's actually the suppress onto Half-Hearted Vengeful Maelstrom with a little bit of damage reduction. Although the Pyroclasm doesn't actually bounce to anyone there. Half-Hearted is still really low. He still has his hyperkinetic position burst. Can sleeves that ultimate in a fight. Polar Flame actually misses everyone. Metal Fender trying to run away while doing a little bit of damage. Dual Power is in the middle of the entire team of Clueless actually going to get that Cataclysm off. Half-Hearted with the suppress at the last second. The intervention to keep him alive. Also, he does survive there. It's actually 2 kills for Clueless. Parker's stunned up by Brent. And it looks like that's a disengage.
Yes, this is kind of an extension of what we were seeing at the Windmill fight and in the last game to some extent too. This is just basically some beautiful team fighting going on by Clueless. Science caught out Half-Hearted with the Urgot, did immediately challenge the ult, but the Clueless team immediately repositioned and then took advantage of that. And then we saw the combination of their positioning with Urgot in the backline, continue to make procs with those Acid Hunters and the Storm Shields, and then with the combination of the Divine Intervention and a swap, they were just able to completely dominate that fight without even giving up an inch of ground.
Yeah, and speaking of dominating, I don't know if you saw Wolford jumping onto Newbie3 there, but he almost got the solo kill, almost managed to get the assassination. He could have, I think, but he didn't see enough members of Amputease on the map, and he was a little bit concerned that there might be a gank. So did end up backing out there, but it was Akali just doing really well in the bot lane.
Yeah, Wolfer is extremely skilled at his Akali play. That's one of his favorite champions right now, I do believe. And now that Akali's got her ultimate, as soon as she's got charges on top of that, she feels comfortable. She's just going to be able to gap close on Orianna all day long.
And speaking of gap close, there's the jump onto Science. That's not how you want to be focusing though. True Shot Barrage comes across. Parker survives for a really long time with that Sap Magic, but he probably is going to go down eventually. The first 2 kills do go over to Amputeases there, but it's Wolford being focused down. That's actually 3 kills in favor of them for just 1 so far. Akali is not there right now. She did revive. Half-Hearted goes down, and that's a fight won by Amputeases thanks to the engage on the Warwick.
Yeah, it was very nice by Amputease, just kind of catching multiple members of Clueless out of position and getting enough focus damage down in order to get their key members out of the picture. And once that was done, it was just a matter of cleanup.
I'm a little bit scared for Baby right now, speaking of cleanup, but maybe I should be scared for everyone else as Wolfer comes back in. No one wants to be caught out by that, and so not only is Kayle going to be safe, but so is the Windmill.
Yeah, that was so close it was almost calculated just by watching it. Kayle walking away with just a shred of her health after taking an Ezreal auto attack. But the counter engagement going on here, we see it. Akali coming back onto that Ezreal now. 4 members of Clueless just dogpiling this poor Jarvan.
Yeah, there is absolutely nothing that Dual Power could do about that. He might have the power to duel, or sorry, no, I said that all wrong. I wanted to say he might be dual power, but he doesn't have the power to duel. But I said it wrong, and it was all ruined.
It still works. Got 2 members of Team Amputease right now just trying to keep their refinery from being captured, but Maokai and Urgot doing a fantastic job keeping them out. Warwick actually burning his suppress onto Maokai. I'm not sure that was a good use of that ultimate, but it is going to ensure that they get the refinery back. But Clueless does still have primary control of the jungle here thanks to their poking range.
Yeah, Newbie3 is actually having a much better time against Baby Pop's kill than he was before against Wolfer's Akali. And that's probably in part due to just the champion matchup, but he's able to get a neutral onto the Boneyard there.
Yeah, not only a neutral, but he's got Kayle almost within killing range right now. I'm really surprised they made that swap just because I figured they would want to keep Akali down the bottom lane to keep the pressure on that Orianna and force Amputease to react to them.
Yeah, now Wolfer is returning to the bot lane. I think he just had been fighting and they needed someone to go down, so they said, alright, who's closest? Ended up sending Baby there. And Wolfer now zoning while Baby recaptures, but it is top actually the capture onto the Windmill has been started. Sharp Barrage goes across. There's the oh, he died before the Cataclysm landed, and it went on cooldown without doing any damage. Arcane should back from Stroke, and Parker's here with the Vengeful Maelstrom. And Taliesin flashing into the middle there. That is the W summon he wanted. uses that wind slash to get the kill onto Ezreal. There's the exhaust onto Science Baby coming back, and there's some move speed you were talking about, but can't quite get close enough.
Yeah, that flash stun was just pretty much the fight closer right there. I mean, sure, Clueless had pretty much control of that fight at the moment, but that just turned what would have been pressing back Amputease from the windmill into securing those kills and just position of the top half of the map. And the bomb side, that pressure I was talking about with Akali has drawn Ezreal down temporarily. I mean, Akali hasn't seen this because of the fog of war, but it is taking effect.
Alright, so it looks like a little bit of motion around the Storm Shield here right now.
Yeah,
Maokai is... Yeah, go ahead.
This could actually be a little bit disastrous for Clueless because right now Amputease is clustered and Clueless is kind of scattered, kind of half thinking about a bottom lane gank. If Amputease finds Clueless and hard engages onto them right now, they could pick somebody off.
Sturgeon does manage to finish the Storm Shield capture there, so both Storm Shields taken by the teams. The wave is starting to push out a little bit towards the windmill, so someone's going to have to deal with it on the side of Clueless decently soon.
It looks like they did find Jarvan in the jungle and are going to engage onto that. We see the Maokai ult coming down. There's not exactly any members of his team to amp up the damage, but it is going to keep him alive. The Divine Intervention onto Riven, pretty much negating almost all of Warwick's burst. Maokai is going to fall, but he did live long enough for the rest of his team to just basically sweep up this fight. The swap coming out from Urgot, he is going to pick up that brand, and then Bebe picking up Ezreal as well. Right now, Clueless has just got utter domination of the refinery section of the map, and I think this is a free capture for them.
Yeah, this should be a free neutral at the very least. Jarvan and Warwick are coming back, but that fight was just Clueless being ahead and then fighting really well together. Baby on kill is 9-0-4 this game. Half-Heart and Urgot 6-2 and 10, and those huge kill scores are just completely paying off for them. They're getting so much damage off and just not taking anything.
Yeah, we talk about it being harder to snowball in Dominion, but you're starting to see trace elements of how it can happen here. All members of Team Clueless are at 11, with Riven at 12, and then most of the members of Amputease are still around the 10 and 11 range, so they are starting to eke out a little bit of a level advantage on top of already having such powerful map control and team fighting potential.
Yeah, and being alive for so much longer is really what's helping them do that. Getting so much more ambient XP gain. There's the engage onto Metal Fender, and I can't even call it an engage. That was just a pick off, very clean there. Oh, and a nice intervention from Baby onto himself there. It looks like Sturgeon is going to go down, and Baby with, again, another miraculous escape.
Yeah, that was a very good turnaround of that part. I thought for sure that Jarvan and company were going to be able to pick off that kill because they caught her out of position, threw down the Cataclysm, but that Divine Intervention bought just enough time for that team fight to turn around in a second.
And there's actually the Shockwave onto Wolfer. Speaking of turning around, Newbie 3 turns around that fight. I don't think it's going to be enough for him to save his point, just because Maokai is there also, but in the center of the map is actually a shutdown onto Urgot. Science now chasing onto Talith. Nice slow comes from Bebe. It looks like that's going to be a disengage.
Yeah, Amputease got pretty lucky there catching Urgot, just the perfect position to take him down. Urgot was forced to use his ultimate to try and stay alive, and it looks like they're going to actually be training out Warwick for that as well. So now they have one member of each team down. Urgot is going to come up first. Amputease going to get the neutralization on this windmill. I don't think Kale's going to be able to stop it, but Riven going to press up this minion wave we see over here by the refinery and possibly get the neutral.
That's a huge minion wave. They might actually be able to capture this because instead of recalling, the members of Amputease are fighting Bebe here. Bebe is going to be able to stall for a really long time, and that minion wave definitely has a capture.
Yeah, and Urgot's back up as well, so this is a 3v3 on top of the refinery.
It is a 3v3. Metal Fender gets taken down almost immediately. Bebe's stunned a little bit, takes a lot of blaze damage. He's actually going to drop to that brand passive eventually, but the points are still owned. So this is a 4-cop for Clueless, but they're missing the windmill.
Yeah, that Akali just basically dominating the bottom lane. Even if she's not getting rolling ganks, her ability just to outright kill Orianna is forcing Amputease to react to that. When that happens, Clueless is seizing advantage at any of the other points and just maintaining a very strong control of the jungle and of the outer points.
Yeah, they're doing a really good job of recognizing when they can't defend something, such as the windmill right there, and going for something that they can take instead. The suppress goes onto Talith, but that's not even enough to kill him during it because he just has enough health to deal with that. And Science is healing for so much right now. Really, they need to get a stun off onto him. Talith does barely survive and gets the kill.
Yeah, it's kind of looking at the build coming out for Riven. I'm wondering... No, she's probably just going to go for a Ghost Blade. I was wondering for a second if you're going to see an Executioner's Calling to try and shut down Warwick even further, but at this point I think Riven's so far ahead she can just go for the full Ghost Blade.
Yeah, might be able to do that. Has the Black Cleaver finished already, and not going to go for the capture onto the drill there. The minions were able to get it neutral before, so there's a small advantage for Amputeases, but every time that the minions capture a point, that's 100 gold for the other team.
Yeah, it's kind of the unfortunate point of the minion push. I mean, sure, you can get a neutralization, cause some extra pressure, but in a case like this for Amputees, you desperately need that extra gold. And the Jarvan, see the Cataclysm coming now, but here comes Riven, actually going to be able to get into that fight thanks to the broken wings. Urgot just barely getting out of damage range of the...
Oh, that's suppressed.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. He almost did get out of that, and Warwick is going to pick up the kill, but pays for it quite dearly. Maokai running for his life right now, does get the health rook out before Ezreal can finish him off. Is going to keep this fight tangle up long enough for Riven to get here, and she does land that third broken wings onto the fight. And it looks like Akali's actually swapped out bottom lane again.
Yeah, Akali is swapping up here to dual power. But does he have the power to duel? In the bot lane, Kayle does have the power to duel Orianna and picks up the kill.
Yeah, at this point in the game, I think Jarvan's got just enough itemization that he can become a threat even to somebody like Akali. But give her enough time, she can probably poke him down and go in for the kill, especially with the help of Maokai here.
And that's probably going to be game here as 9 Nexus health remain, and there's a neutral, so it's actually a 3.5 cap here for Clueless. So ending the game in style, and that is going to be DominateDominion number 82 going over Clueless.
Yep, and with the score of 433-0, it may have been a longer match, but it was still a dominating shutout for Clueless. Very nicely played by their team.
Yeah, that was great play again from every single member of Clueless. Surviving this time with 433 Nexus health. I want to say a little bit lower Nexus health than they had last game, but just looking at those records, 11-1 on Bebe, 10-4 on Half-Hearted, even 7-3 on Talith, Pierre, and Riven, 17 assists on top of that, 05-22 Maokai. That's actually a really good score for Maokai because he doesn't need as much gold as the carries. So just get 22 assists and don't even take any kills.
Yeah, this is just... wow. I mean, as a tank, usually I like to pay more attention to my assist score than my kill score, but still, 0-5-22, that's still pretty darn good considering the duration of that game. And looking at the damage dealt to champions, oh dear. Again, I wasn't expecting Urgot to quite top the charts like he does, but geez, that's almost double what most people were doing.
Yeah, that's what we saw last game also. It was actually just... the spotlight was all on Vigor, but it was actually Urgot with the most damage dealt to champions, and does it again with 27k. Actually 28k basically.
Yep, close enough. And since everybody wants to see it, looking at the Graveyard Hero, it looks like Brand is just barely going to edge out that one. Alright,
so congratulations to Team Clueless. They have taken first place in DominateDominion at number 82, and I believe that concludes our broadcast for the day.
Yep, that is the last match, so thank you everybody for coming in. We're going to leave up the outro screen for a little bit, but that's pretty much it. So everybody have a good night, and thank you for stopping in.